My name is Julia. I want to tell you a story about something that happened in my family. It's not easy to talk about, but I hope you will listen. I'm a 34-year-old woman with a gentle and devoted personality, and have been married to Michael for 5 years. Michael is a civil engineer who often works out of state, leaving me most of the time to take care of the family. Michael loves me not only because of his thoughtfulness, but also because of the way he always strives to bring the best life to his son Ethan, with whom I hope to build a relationship like that of a biological mother and son. Ethan, now 17 years old, is a quiet guy who often avoids contact and only focuses on personal activities. Ethan rarely talks to me, other than short answers like, "How was school today, Ethan?" I asked with a small smile, watching the boy enter the house after school. "Fine," he answered curtly and quickly went back to his room. I decided to continue to build a cozy and comfortable environment for Ethan. I cook his favorite dishes, quietly clean his room without disturbing him, and am always there when Ethan needs me. One day, I noticed that Ethan started to change. During dinner, he talked about a new friend at school and shared about his love of basketball. I heard him smile, and felt like he was letting me into his world. One evening, I made grilled meat with honey sauce, the boy's favorite dish. This was the first time Ethan called me Mother Julia. Even though the call was small, those words warmed my heart. I believe we are building a trusting relationship. But in Ethan's heart, emotions began to change complicatedly, something I had not anticipated. The relationship between Ethan and I gradually became closer. Shared dinners, small chats about school, and even the times Ethan proactively helped Julia clean the house all made the family atmosphere warmer. Julia feels proud to have built a good relationship with her stepson. One evening when my husband was on a business trip, Ethan and I watched a comedy movie together. Both laughed at the funny scenes. Ethan sat closer than usual, but I didn't notice because I thought it was just a carefree gesture of a young man. "Thank you for always making time for me, Mom," Ethan said unexpectedly, his eyes becoming deep. I smiled at that. "Of course, Ethan. Family is the most important." However, gradually I started to notice small changes in the way Ethan treated me. He often finds ways to be near, from helping me in the kitchen to following me out into the garden to chat. "You don't need to do everything, Mom. Let me help," Ethan said as I was chopping vegetables. He took the knife from my hand and cut the vegetables with rare attention. Ethan's compliments to me also became more numerous and personal than usual. "This house has really gotten warmer since Mom came," he said once, his eyes filled with emotion as he looked at me. But sometimes the way he looked at her made her feel uncomfortable. She told herself that it was just her imagination, but the tension in her heart started to appear. Ethan, although he did not say it clearly, seemed to be harboring difficult feelings. Everything in the family seemed to be going well, but the change in Ethan's behavior began to worry me a lot. He became closer. One evening, while my husband Michael was away on business, I was reading a book in the living room when Ethan walked in. He sat near me, looking intently. I felt the tension in the air, but I tried to focus on my book. However, when Ethan placed his hand on mine, I felt a mixture of confusion and uneasiness. After midnight, I started trying to keep my distance from Ethan. I avoid moments alone with him, and when we are in the same room, I always maintain a calm and professional attitude. Despite this, Ethan kept trying to get close. He often appears where I am working, or helps me with small things, or simply sits close to chat with me. I feel increasingly pressured. Even though Ethan didn't do anything that was clearly off limits, his eyes and gestures made it hard for me to feel comfortable. Inside, I struggled with complex emotions, both wanting to protect Ethan from youthful confusion and fearing that his actions might disrupt family harmony. I realized that, if this situation continued, I wouldn't be able to keep quiet forever. I know that Ethan's change in behavior is no longer just a coincidence. The lingering looks, the special attention, and the way he constantly found reasons to stay close to me made me unable to continue to ignore him. Inside, I felt the tension growing, but the thought of talking to my husband Michael filled me with dread. I'm afraid that Michael will misunderstand, or worse, our family will break up. After several sleepless nights, I decided to confront Ethan. One fine weather afternoon, I looked for him in the living room, where he was sitting watching TV. I said, in a calm but firm tone, explaining that I sensed a change in his behavior and wanted to clarify things. Ethan was silent after hearing this, but the embarrassment was clearly visible on his face. He lowered his head, avoiding my gaze. I said I cared for him like a stepmother, but any feelings that crossed family lines were inappropriate. But despite the sensitive and gentle nature of my words, I sensed that Ethan was struggling with his own emotions. After a very thick conversation, I also hoped things will return to normal. But Ethan continued to find ways to be closer to me as usual, even though he showed it less directly. I realized that this wasn't just Ethan and me's problem. This was an issue that required my husband Michael's intervention to keep our family from falling into disarray. I began to mentally prepare to talk to my husband, knowing that the truth would be difficult but necessary to completely resolve the issue. And I have decided that I cannot continue to keep silent anymore. The tension in my relationship with Ethan and my fear of hurting my family made me realize that I needed to share the truth with my husband, Michael. One bright morning, when Ethan went out, I sat with my husband in the living room, preparing myself to talk everything out. With a trembling voice, I told my husband the whole story, from Ethan's small actions to the times he expressed his closeness beyond the limit. Michael, at first, listened silently. His face changed from confused to angry and finally sad. When I tried to emphasize that I didn't blame Ethan entirely, because I understood that he was going through the complicated emotions of adolescence, but his behavior could not continue. Michael, despite his shock and disappointment, quickly regained his composure. He knew that this was a problem that needed to be solved with tact and human understanding, not just for my sake, but also for Ethan's healthy development. After some thought, Michael decided that Ethan needed some time away from home to calm down and adjust his emotions. He contacted his sister, who lived in a neighboring town, and arranged for Ethan to temporarily live with her. Michael talked to Ethan, explaining that this was a way to give him space to process his emotions and focus on the future. Ethan, although uncomfortable, reluctantly agreed. I was relieved to know that Michael was on my side, but I couldn't help but worry about Ethan. Either way, I hope that this decision will help our family begin the journey of healing and rebuilding harmony. Ethan moved in with his aunt for a few weeks, leaving behind a house that had previously been filled with unspoken tension between him and me. The atmosphere in the house instantly became lighter, but I still felt a dull sadness. I knew that Ethan was not a bad person. He was just confused and stuck in emotions that were hard to describe. And I wonder if this time apart is enough to help him overcome his inner difficulties. My husband Michael was by my side the first few days after Ethan left. He spent a lot of time talking with me, reassuring me that their family would overcome this challenge. Every evening, we sit together on the sofa, holding each other's hands tightly like first love. I feel the unity between the two of us. I knew that even though this had shaken the foundation of our family, Michael's love and patience were vital to my continued future. Meanwhile, Ethan is trying to adjust too. At his aunt's house, he was encouraged to participate in activities such as playing sports and working part-time jobs, which helped him direct his attention to more positive goals. Ethan's aunt, with her understanding and life experience, played the role of a confidant, quietly helping him reorient his emotions and thoughts. After a while, I felt the house gradually return to a peaceful state. But one day, Michael received a text from Ethan. He said he understood many things, apologized for the pressure he had caused his family, and wished for a chance to heal. I read that message and felt a spark of hope. My family still has a long road ahead, but I believe they have laid the first bricks to rebuild trust and love. After several weeks of living away from home, Ethan returned, bringing with him a calmer and somewhat more mature attitude. I was a little nervous about meeting him for the first time but decided to keep a casual attitude to create a friendly atmosphere. Michael, as the father, spoke frankly with Ethan as soon as he returned. Father and son spent hours in the office, communicating seriously but also full of intimate emotions. Ethan apologized to me, and not just through words, but through actions. He no longer tried to approach me like before but kept a certain distance to show respect. Even though I was still confused by what had happened, I realized that Ethan was working to correct his mistake. My husband Michael and I plan weekend getaways together, helping to bring everyone back together. Ethan also took up new activities, like learning more about photography, a hobby he found while living with his aunt. His photos became interesting conversation topics at family dinners. I saw Ethan smiling more, chatting more freely, and seemingly more focused on his personal goals. Michael was always by my side, reassuring me that everything was on track. One evening, as the whole family sat down to review the photos taken by Ethan, I realized that our love and patience were beginning to bear fruit. They still have a long journey ahead of them, but I believe this family will heal and become stronger than ever. As time passed, Ethan, after going through a period of self-reflection, seemed to have grown more mature. He learned to control his emotions and concentrate on positive activities. I noticed a noticeable change in Ethan as he spent more time on his hobbies of photography, reading, and even took a creative writing class. I, while still keeping enough distance, also actively encouraged Ethan to develop himself. I often asked about the photos he took or the creative ideas he wrote. Even though our relationship wasn't as comfortable as before, I realized that Ethan's sincerity in healing was genuine. My husband Michael played a key role in reconnecting our family. He regularly arranges time with me and Ethan to participate in outdoor activities, like camping or cycling. Family evenings return to a simple yet meaningful routine, eating dinner together, talking, and occasionally playing board games. One evening, Ethan put on the table a photo album he made himself. In it, photos capture family moments from the past, including new photos of Michael, me, and himself. Ethan said in a deep voice, thanking me for not abandoning him in the most difficult times. After many months of effort, Michael, me and Ethan's family gradually regained stability. Mental wounds, although not easy to heal, have become valuable lessons for each person to better understand each other. The complex emotions Ethan once experienced have now been replaced by maturity and gratitude. Michael and I continue to build our strong relationship based on mutual understanding and respect. Instead of holding on to our insecurities, we learn to see Ethan as a young man learning to grow from mistakes. Mistaken. I realize that love does not only come from ignoring mistakes but also from leading and helping others become better. Ethan, with guidance from his father and aunt, becomes increasingly focused on the future. He enrolled in an art college, where he could develop his talent in photography. Before leaving home to start the first semester, he held a small family meal. During the meal, Ethan thanked Michael and I for being patient and loving him even when he didn't deserve it. "Mom Julia, I owe you a sincere apology," Ethan said, his voice sincere. "I can't change the past, but I will try to become someone you can both be proud of." At that moment I smiled softly. And I know that Ethan has truly changed completely. When Ethan left to start his new journey, Michael and I stood on the porch, holding hands. They looked after Ethan, feeling proud and relieved. After all, they knew their family had overcome their greatest challenge. And now, they can continue to live, love, and grow together moving forward. Thank you for watching the entire video. Please give me an idea to earn likes and comments from around the world.